Todd Crowley is the curator, I guess you would say, the curator of...
Well, that's kind of an official term for what I do, but yeah, I guess that works.
Musical Petting Zoo.
Todd's Musical Petting Zoo.
I didn't know what that was exactly, and I thought I was going to get bit, but actually it's a collection of musical instruments of all kinds here. It's a beautiful setup for people to come down and just kind of play to their heart's content on instruments maybe they never played before or even saw before.
Well, that's part of the idea. You know, the folk tradition is people sharing their love of music and love of instruments, and you come to a bluegrass festival, people know banjo, they know mandolin, they know fiddle, they know all the regular bluegrass instruments, but there are a lot of things here from South America, from Africa, from around the world, and I kind of like to think that instruments have a common DNA just like we do, so they're a tangible representation of how we're all connected in some way.
Now, where do you get all these instruments from? Are they all yours? Do people just drop them off at your doorstep?
Well, I started collecting them a number of years ago, and they were mine. Now I've become theirs. They run the show. When they want to go to a festival, I ask them, and they vote on it. And we had a good time at Podunk last year, so they say, "Can we come back to Podunk this year?" I said, "Well, if they'll have us, and you know, the instruments, they have a say. I'm management, they're labor, but we have a very good relationship, and no union trouble."
Do you have any good stories of people who maybe showed up and never maybe played an instrument before and suddenly saw one they fell in love with and started playing?
Well, that happens quite often. I mean, often after a festival, someone will take a card and they'll get a hold of me on the internet and they'll say, "I really like that hammered dulcimer, or I really like the auto harp. Can you tell me more about it?" And I've had a number of people that I don't sell instruments, but I know how to find them and procure them, and I know who builds them, and so I'm sort of a clearinghouse of information sometimes. So that does happen. And sometimes with the children, you know, I don't think parents should run out and spend a lot of money on a new instrument before the child shows some interest. So if a child shows an interest over a 2 or 3 day period in an instrument here, like a fiddle, then that's a pretty good indicator for the parent that maybe we'll get them started on the fiddle when we get back home.
How many different instruments do you have here in the Musical Petting Zoo?
I stopped counting a long time ago. People ask me, I say over 100, but it's...
Can you run down a list of them?
Well, I try to keep an alphabetical list in my head. Okay. So we have accordions, auto harps, banjos, bouzouki, quattros, dulcimers, egg shakers, fiddles, guitars, harps, etc., 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 on down to...
That's E. I think etc. is the E's.
The E's, yeah. There's some of them are a little hard to... You know, there aren't many N instruments, so I go with the Native American flute, you know.
Now, how many do you play yourself?
I mainly play auto harp and I like to sing, but I play mountain dulcimer and some guitar and bouzouki. I was kind of late to learning to play instruments, so I'm not great at any of them, but I like instruments. I just think they're, you know, as far as anything that you could own, what could be more pleasing than something that makes it pretty sound?
It's been a great gathering place for people as they go over to the food tents and maybe walk back from one of the stage concerts. You just come back here and we have a gentleman teaching, I think it's his daughter, how to play guitar back here.
Right.
And we've got kids playing accordions and dulcimers all at the same time. It sounds like it would be a noisy racket, but it's actually kind of cool to listen to.
I sometimes call it a joyful cacophony. Sometimes it makes music, sometimes it makes a racket, but it's, you know, people get into their own little zone when they're playing and everything else is blotted out, and they have fun learning about the instruments that way.
Do you ever get headaches any days you wake up and go, "Oh, I got a headache. I'm not gonna open up the Musical Petting Zoo"?
I look forward to every morning. I sleep in the van next to the petting zoo, and by 7 o'clock I'm up, I get the tarps out, and part of my fun is setting the table. I like tuning instruments. That's a weird thing to say, but you know, I go around and tune them in the morning, and it's me and the guys setting up the coffee tent, and you know, the guys coming around and cleaning up. It's just sort of that time of day is a really nice time of day before the...
You're in East Hartford this weekend for the Podunk. How far does the Musical Petting Zoo go? Do you go all over Connecticut, all over the Northeast?
Well, I started at Memorial Day in California.
Oh, really?
I started with an auto harp gathering in California, and I did the Ogden Music Festival and the Albuquerque Folk Festival, and then I came back and did Old Songs, just folk festival here in New York. I do a lot of festivals in Canada. After here, I'm going to have a little break, and then I'm going to finish up with 3 festivals in Ontario. So So.
Any notables come by and play any of your instruments? How about Steve Martin? Steve Martin ever come by and play a banjo?
Not that I've noticed, but we do get some of the performers that do like to come by, and that's a fun thing too, because the performers will always gravitate to the instrument that's new to them. So if there's an instrument in the petting zoo that they don't know, they become childlike again and they puzzle the instrument out, and it's a good thing for kids to see performers having a little time figuring out something. Like the concertina may be foreign to somebody who plays slide guitar. So it's an equalizing place where everybody is sort of in that discovery mode.
Now, what's this thing this guy's playing over here?
That's a smaller piano accordion. The real big piano accordions like Lawrence Welk played are fully chromatic. This one only plays in a few keys, but it gives people a feeling of what a accordion feels like.
Do you ever get to the point where somebody playing so much that you go over and just grab it out of their hands and throw it?
I know. I don't grab any and take any instruments out of any hands. And I do at the end of a festival when I'm packing up. It becomes the incredible shrinking petting zoo.
Okay.
Because I don't like to just take things away and just stop everything. So gradually I put things in cases, put it in the van.
That's like a dad with a bunch of little kids.
Right.
Yeah, so putting the toys away one at a time.
Right. And then when there are fewer people, they gather around fewer and fewer instruments, and then toward the end there may only be a dozen instruments out, but there's still a dozen people playing them, and then I have a big speech at the end about the labor laws in Hartford not allowing instruments to be played past a certain hour. And
is that right?
Nice.
That's okay. Just make that up. Okay.
Well, it's sort of like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
You create this world, and I'm the grand and powerful Wizard of Todd, and they have rules in Hartford about certain hours about petting zoos.
Well, I want to thank you for being part of our interview here at Lucky Souls Productions, but I gotta confess something. I want to apologize. I knocked over your rack of banjos before. It sounded great, but I hope I didn't break anything.
If you knock over a rack of banjos, those banjos will probably sound better when you put them back up.
Actually, it sounded pretty good. I think we ought to make a recording of it.
Well,
I think I just wrote a song.
There could be. That could happen.
Todd Crowley is the curator and the kind of the ringmaster of the musical petting zoo here this week at Podunk. And where are you going to be next week?
I'll be off next week, but in 2 more weeks I'll be at the Summer Folk Festival in Owen Sound, Ontario, and then finish up with 2 more.
Good luck to you, Mr. Crowley. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being part of LuckySoulsProductions.com.
And thanks to Podunk Bluegrass Festival for having me. Roger Moss is a great guy, and they've treated me really well here.
Thank you.